when do you start to branch out on your own? This is like probably this is probably where you start to understand like, okay, I have a process here. It's worked repeatedly, and now there's an option for me to take this and run with it, because obviously other companies need this because they're always hurting with these enterprise clients.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of it started, it was really interesting, Scott, because it started, I didn't really work on building my brand. I was so focused on achieving those
Mm-hmm.
results internally. And I networked with customers or customer facing components, but not
Mm-hmm.
with peers. I really, other companies. I networked with peers at my company. So I was kind of
Yeah.
like in my own bubble. And that's one of the biggest things I tell salespeople. It's always talk to people outside of that. So what happened was I started talking to folks as I was building my brand, and they're like, "What'd you do?" You know, because a lot
Yeah.
of salespeople are competitive, but they're like, "So give me your baseball card. What are your stats? What did you execute on, right?" And then I started telling people, and they're like, "Huh, that's like really impressive." And I'm like, "It is." They tell me at work I'm not doing enough,
Yeah.
you know. So like I was like, "Oh my God, like
Yeah.
I got something here, right?" And then I started asking around, and they're like, "Dude, nobody else is doing that." And so I'm like, "Okay, this is interesting." So basically what happened, and we talked about this a little bit before, is my firm, I started to work on creating a methodology and a frameworks around this, started to create a course for sales reps, not for companies. My company found out about it. They didn't like it. It was in the middle of COVID, and they say, Ryan, it's time
Yeah.
for you to leave, right? After being there for 9.5 years. So it was like the peak of COVID. So that's a whole nother story we can get into. We don't need to get into that now,
I don't
but
want. I don't want to bring
a
up.
little hard.
I don't want to
So
bring up bad memories. That give you a little PTSD. Yeah.
yeah, it sucked, man. The first 4 or 5 months, I was just
Yeah.
trying to figure out what was going on. I mean, that's when the riots were happening in Chicago. There was all sorts. I mean, it was a really unique time, and I kept saying to myself, as a point of motivation, like, Ryan, this is going to be a hell of a comeback story. This is going to be a hell of a redemption story. And so I did an enterprise summit last year in October, and I started talking to people. Once again, this kind of came to the surface, and I'm like, I really want to be working with CEOs. And I started talking to my network, and people are like, well, what you did, I
Mhm.
want you to do that for my company. And so I started to focus on it. And the more I focused on it, the more it started to grow. And so now essentially I coach CEOs on how to implement those systems that got that result for me before, when in a resource constrained environment where they don't have tons of venture capital.
And you found this. You found that this is, you had your product that you had proven out that has worked, and then you just sold it. You sold this strategy to businesses, and now, when did you close your first deal as an entrepreneur? Was it
Yeah,
month
well,
five?
so I started having people. It's funny because I started having people want me to coach them on how to sell, because I help sales reps. Like I help one person increase their income from never being in B2B sales to almost like 500K in like a couple of years. So so people, I had some coaching students like right from the get go. Like people wanted me
Okay.
to work with them and help them. So I had kind of different avenues where I started to do that. My first consulting company that I closed was right after I did the Enterprise Sales Summit. And it was kind of on accident because I wasn't focused on it, but I had someone from my network tell me, I want you to help me with this. And then I had someone else from a referral tell me like, hey, like I want you to help with this. And then I started getting more referrals, leveraging my own dog food, and that's where my passion for referrals comes. Because I basically started to create, really good cash flow and momentum from harnessing referrals. And I wasn't even focused on that, Scott. Like
Mm.
originally, like I didn't play inside my network with that. I was always siloed in my company, like I said. So I'm like, this could be one of the best gifts that I could give entrepreneurs or startups that are starting if I could teach them how to do this and systemize it.
What was the biggest misconception about entrepreneurship and building your own business that you had going in that you sort of matured on over the past year?
Yeah, one of the biggest things is I waited too long to leverage other people.
That's smart.
I
Okay.
tried to lone wolf it, and with my pride, I'm like, I'm gonna figure this out. This is what I'm gonna do, right? And I started talking to more and more people, and at the same time, I wish I would have outsourced different components of what I was doing, and that would have massively accelerated.
Yeah.
like where I was going and how fast I could have done that.
Do you outsource stuff now? Like like
Yeah,
is it just
yeah.
it's not just you now. You're starting to grow like team and
Right.
build.
Yeah, I have different contract. You don't even have to hire people full time right now. That's the beautiful thing, right? So you can ramp it up, whether it be with your content, whether it be your podcast development,
Yeah.
whether it be I mean, there's
You're
so
talking about
many
this
different
before,
things.
like how I'm,
Yeah.
we're like I'm trying to do that now, just because and it's like the classic, like first time. I don't even know it's first time. It's just classic person who's never scaled before problem. They just feel they can do everything themselves. But, yeah,
Yeah, and that's I mean that's like, and here's the thing. Somebody told me this, and a great book to read on this is Who Not How. Have you ever heard of the book Who Not How by Dan Sullivan and Ben
it is
Hardy?
a familiar name, but I'm not placing it. Maybe I've seen it in the past. I can't remember.
Okay, so any entrepreneur that wants to get more skilled at outsourcing, read that book.
All right.
Like it totally changes the game in terms of your time. Like you could buy your time back at a discount massively.
Hmm.
It's insane. So that's my tip.
Good.